Today, I'm reviewing the Cheetah Ultra from Mikolo. Ta-da! This is a wall-mounted folding rack that's also a functional trainer that does something unique that no other rack that I have ever reviewed does. So I'm excited to show it to you. I'm gonna put it to the test under some heavy lifts today. We're gonna test the cable system. We're gonna test the chin-up bar. We're gonna try out the 5 different modes, and we're gonna see if it's worth the money. All right, let's get started. Putting this together was so easy, with the exception of mounting it to the wall. The assembly guide only provides instructions and hardware for mounting this to a cement wall, but nowhere does it mention what to do if you have drywall and studs. So as you can see, my studs are not evenly spaced or properly spaced to be able to mount this directly to my stud. If your studs happen to be in the correct distance apart and you can mount it straight to the studs, you can do that. But for me, I have to use what's called a stringer. I got two 2x6s, one for the top, one for the bottom. And what that's gonna do for me is it's gonna tie the 3 studs together into one solid piece so that I can then mount my wall rack anywhere I want on that stringer. These are the bolts I got to mount the stringers to the wall. And then these are the bolts I got to mount the rack to the stringer. Those are the expansion bolts that Mikolo provides. You don't want to mount this rack to your stringer using expansion bolts. Expansion bolts are only to be used if you're mounting into something like cement. Okay, it's close to perfect. The mistake I made is I put my stringer board level. I'm mounting this on a side wall in my garage, and the slope of my garage is not level. Ideally, you want to mount this rack on the back wall of your garage so that it can be perfect. But if you're mounting it on a side wall, take into consideration that your stringer board is probably not going to need to be perfectly level. It needs to be in exact line with the floor. The other thing, I have a molding along the bottom of my garage floor. First, there's a cement lip that comes up about 4 inches. And then on top of that, there's like another 4 inches of molding. The lowest level that I could mount my bottom stringer without ripping off the molding was just a little bit too high for the feet to hit the ground. I ended up putting a 2x6 under each leg of the rack. It works fine. It's gonna work perfect for me to test it out and demonstrate how much weight this beast can handle. You can fold the rack flat against the wall with the arms either out or in. Once it's mounted to the wall, it is so stable. I jerked on this front and back and it is solid as a rock. I would say this is the most stable rack of any rack that I've had in my garage gym. It's rated up to 1,000 pounds on the squat rack. It's also nice because you're lifting off the front of that rack, so you have a ton of room. You're not like confined inside of the square rack and you're limited to what space you have. You're just using it for the J hooks and ideally the safety bars, and you're just lifting right off the front of it.
I've been trying to forget, trying to forget, trying to forget you. I've been trying to forget, trying to forget, trying to forget, trying to forget. I've been
With my Cheetah, I also got the Easy Grip bumper plates. These have a ridge of bumps followed by a small groove. So it's easier to pick them up when they're flat on the floor. You can get your fingers under the edge and pick them up. I dropped them on my horse stall mats to give them a bounce test, and they're legit. They have a lot of bounce to them. The thing that I've always not liked about bumper plates is you have to just wedge them in your fingers and pick them up by using your grip strength. But because these have the little ridges of bumps, it does make them easier to get a hold of. The cable system on the Cheetah is awesome. It is super smooth and quiet. I tested loading all the weight on one side versus loading the trolley equally on both sides, and it felt exactly the same to me, which indicates very little friction in the system. Every time that I've used a rack that had a square shaped guide rod, it had more friction and it didn't feel as good. Mikolo has put a ton of extra effort into making this feel good, even though it's budget. It's the plastic inserts inside the sliders that go up and down the square tube. They refer to those inserts as a unique ladder design. And if you look, it's got grooves, so it reduces the amount of surface area from the plastic insert that's touching on the steel rod. They finish the rod so it's like a polished finish, and then they have you lubricate it, and the combination of those three things make it feel really good. The piece that moves up and down, there's a little bit of play in it. It's not like super tight either, which at first I thought that might be a defect. When you put the weight on it, it like stabilizes it against the rod and it feels so good. I'll bet you that they tested it with it being a tighter fit and it added more friction. It really seems like they tested this design and I'm impressed. I have to say, I was pleased. One of the things that Mikolo always does really well on their products are these trigger trolleys. They have like an enamel paint on the front uprights that make it really slick, and then the plastic inserts on those trigger trolleys have very little friction. So you can move the trolleys with one hand really easily and it feels really good. One thing I noticed, when you have weight on the weight holders, it adds resistance when moving the trigger trolley. The more weight, the harder it is to move. No weight, it's as smooth as butter. Because this is an independent pulley system, it is perfect to do supersets quickly without having to change the weights. The pulleys are also a 1-to-1 ratio, so you end up with less cable travel distance, but I was still able to do every lift with no issue, plenty of travel distance. And as you can see here, to test the length of the travel distance, I had to take an extra step before I actually hit the top of the rack. The nice thing about the 1-to-1 ratio is you can save money on weights because you put 50 pounds on there, it feels like 50 pounds. The unique feature about the Cheetah that I have never gotten to experience on any other rack that I've owned is it has 5 different angles that you can set the arms, right? You've got flat against the wall, then it has 180 degrees open. This is the first time I have ever been able to do real cable crossovers in my garage because the cable's coming out at a far enough distance where you can stand right in the rack and just get that crossover. And that is awesome. Every other rack that I have used, I have to take a step forward and the cables are coming more from behind me than from the side, and it's not a true cable crossover. I love it when I add a new exercise that I've never been able to do before. Then you've got your standard 90 degrees, which is where you're gonna do most of your work from. When you're at 90 degrees, you can put the chin-up bar across the front. The chin-up bar is solid and it has just real quick and easy to just screw in the little knobs on each end so you feel like it's really secure on there. The next click in is 135 degrees and they call this functional trainer mode. And when you have it at that slightly wider angle, it gives you a little more space. So if you're training with a training partner on there at the same time, you have a little extra room. And then you can have a click less than 90 degrees. It actually comes into a 45-degree angle. They call it semi-open. I couldn't imagine why I would need that, but it gives you the ability to do two-handed movements. And it looks really cool when you see how the different pulleys are all swiveling to line up to allow you to do it. It feels good. But I was able to do like a row with the back support of my bench. I was able to do dual curls. Every other functional trainer I've ever had is like a square shape, and the distance between those 2 front uprights is too far. Like you can't do both of them at the same time when you're doing curls. You'd be like, it'd be weird. It didn't just give me one extra thing that I could do. It gave me like 5 extra things I could do. What are my final thoughts on the Cheetah Ultra from Mikolo? Number 1 is the price. This is the least expensive rack with a functional trainer that I have ever had in my garage gym. The price is crazy, crazy low on this machine. I love the adjustability. I love being able to make it flat against the wall. I can fit 2 cars in my garage if I ever want to. My favorite thing about it is the 5 modes and being able to do that wide angle so I can do cable crossovers. It's cool to be able to get a super ultra budget rack and then also get something new that I've never had before. The fact that it's wall mounted makes it so stable, there's no wobble. The only other thing that I'm missing with this rack is safety bars and additional accessories. It only comes with the D handles and the J hooks. I don't hate on the fact that they don't include all the extras. I like the idea that I can get the rack and start training. I got mine as the Ultra, right? The only difference between the Cheetah and the Cheetah Ultra is the aluminum pulley wheels. Everything else is exactly the same. If you don't get them up front, you can always add them later. If you're looking for a power rack that can fold up against the wall so it takes up almost no space in your garage, and you want a functional trainer, and you want it at the lowest price point possible, then the Cheetah is one of the best options out there. It checks all the boxes. Great job, Mikolo. I love the Cheetah. If you want to get one, you can use the link in the description below, and that helps me out, and I appreciate that. That's all I got. More cool stuff to come. Keep grinding.